Hey, welcome to another episode of GeekOutdoors.com. So just recently, both Apple and Samsung released their quarterly earnings, and well, sales are down on their phones. Now, the phones that they are particularly talking about here is their $1,000 premium flagship phones. So if you look on these quarterly earnings, you see that both companies, their phone sales have gone down. With the Apple iPhone being a 12% decline, and with the Samsung phones, just weak sales of their premium phones, their recent Galaxy S10. All of their phone sales are down, and a lot of this can be attributed to a few things. I would say the first thing is, well, it's $1,000. And I know Apple is usually the trendsetter for this. They were pretty much the first big company to release a phone at that price, and then Samsung followed, and many other companies follow Apple iPhone's lead. I think that is the first thing. The second thing is most people keep their phones a lot longer now. Like I myself, I haven't upgraded my phone for nearly 4 years now. Now, there still are people who, like to upgrade their phones yearly, but for the majority of people, they're not going to upgrade very often. And I would think the last thing is that most of these phones nowadays that are released, they're just really good. I mean, if you look at phones like the OnePlus Pro, and you could get one that's, even less expensive. You don't have to get the Pro model. There is the Moto G, which I still think is the best value for the money of any of these manufacturers. I really like them. I have a Moto G phone myself. Other manufacturers like Asus, they're doing a lot of great things, and it's still below these flagship phones from Apple and Samsung. And even Huawei, even though they don't have the presence that they do in the US, they're still one of the top phone makers in the world. And I think you could get their Pro lines for anywhere from $400 to probably $700, which is still a lot. But for most people nowadays, I think that they're finding that they don't necessarily have to have these $1,000 premium phones, and they could go for a mid-range to upper mid-range phone from other manufacturers, which is basically their premium line, and still get an amazing experience. The technology is a lot better nowadays. You really don't have much to complain about. They all pretty much have great screens, great cameras, and I just don't see the differentiator that both Apple and Samsung provide, and especially to justify that $1,000 price. And that's always been my stance on that. Whenever they're charging that much for a phone, where when it first came out, it was absolutely crazy. I knew that over time, as all of these companies started releasing these $1,000 phones, it would become the norm. I'm kind of thankful that it is not the norm, at least right now, because I just don't see the value proposition there. And, with these drops that they've had, don't worry. Apple is still making an insane amount of money. They still had revenues of $53.8 billion in that quarter. Samsung is suffering though. Their semiconductor business has gone down. And so, but they're still a big company. They make tons of money. And so I wouldn't be worried about them. And the one thing that both Apple and Samsung are doing, and pretty much every major technology company in the hardware space, is they're not relying on their hardware specifically for their smartphone as much anymore. They diversify what they have, and a lot of these companies offer services, and so that's what all of these companies really focus on, is their entire ecosystem. And that's why Apple, they make so much money. It's not just them selling their iPhones, it's their entire ecosystem surrounds it. Samsung does the same thing, Google does the same thing, Facebook, Amazon, all these big, highly profitable technology companies all do the same thing. So the hardware itself, it is important, but it's not the most important thing. It's all the services that go with it and the ecosystem that people really enjoy using, or even if they don't enjoy it, they don't really have a choice in some cases if they've been in that system for a while now. Now, hopefully this $1,000 trend is a sign of good things to come, meaning that more of these companies will produce phones like this, where you're still getting amazing quality at a price that is, reasonable. And at the same time, more companies like Asus are really trying to push the envelope of what smartphones provide, and not just being better cameras, better screens, because at a certain point, I just don't think you're going to see the differences in it, especially nowadays where pretty much all the phones are, really great, in my opinion. They have great screens, great cameras, especially if you compare it to phones just a few years ago. So those are my thoughts on the $1,000 phone decline from Apple and Samsung. Hopefully this will be a sign for other companies that, just stick with providing the best value for your customers. And of course, these companies, they're still going to make a profit. But I really feel that, those days of just putting out $1,000 phone, hopefully they're coming to an end unless they do something that's really worth spending that extra money. So if you actually had any thoughts on this, whether you have $1,000 phone or whether you have one of these really great mid-range phones, be sure to leave that in the comments area below. And as always, if you did get value out of these videos, be sure to share, like, and subscribe. Hey geeks, if you are a creative geek like me and you wanted to learn how to create content on YouTube and other places on the internet, then check out my Gold Content Creators Group, where you'll get access to 30 videos plus additional content for all the creative geeks out there. And the best part of it is, all of this is free. Simply head over to the link below, check out my page, and sign up for my Gold Content Creators Group. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the other side. Thanks for checking out this episode. And as always, if you like these videos, be sure to click on the subscribe button. And for full written content, audio content, and additional geek stuff, head over to geekoutdoors.com, and I'll see you outdoors on the very next episode.